would like to invite the other panelists to the stage. Engineer Basem Salameh, please, Rangan, Sylvain. And we also want to welcome Dona Madurawala, product engineer at Taqeef, and other special guest, Nabil Shahin from our fellow association, AHRI. Good to see you here. Hi, Dona. I would like to start with you, Dona. What makes market surveillance so important, and why do we need to create more awareness out of the industry?
Thank you, Markus. So we're talking about raising awareness about market surveillance within the industry. So when we talk about the industry, it includes manufacturers, suppliers, certification and regulatory bodies, among whom market surveillance is already a well-known term. But the industry also includes contractors, consultants, end users, developers, and other government bodies as well. So why is raising awareness about market surveillance among all these entities important? Because just to highlight a few benefits, first of all, to the consumer, knowing that the product that they're purchasing it has gone through stringent market surveillance procedures can improve the confidence and the trust in the brand, and then also it gives them value for their money. For example, a customer who's buying a 5-star rated unit for energy efficiency will pay more for the 5-star unit than they would for a 3-star unit. So they have the assurance that the 5-star unit is worth the money. And then to the regulatory bodies, actually, it builds the credibility of regulatory bodies within the market, because when a product is certified under a scheme, market surveillance goes a step further in ensuring that the products that actually come into the market do in fact meet the regulatory requirements. So awareness of activities like that can give the understanding to consultants, contractors, or any concerned body or concerned party that's in the market that a product certificate means more than just document evaluation. Then the impact also goes beyond to other government bodies that specifically rely on certification programs. For example, we have green building regulations in UAE that specifically rely on certification programs for performance. Barjil, for example, that relies on ESMA certification. So imagine if the estimated energy savings from a program like that considers or takes into account a product that does not perform as certified. It's a crack in the foundation. So market surveillance plays a crucial role in strengthening programs like that and activities like that that are conducted by other government bodies as well. And I think a discussion like this in an event of this scale is a step towards the right direction in raising awareness about market surveillance and also realizing its benefits.
Thank you, Dona. Nabil, AHRI is also active as a third-party certification organization. Now, we are both active in the Middle East, and we know that the Middle East tries to carry out a pre-market testing regime. What are the flaws of such an approach? And what could third-party organizations add to that, and how could we help solving this problem of having discrepancies between products which are on the market and what's actually declared?
Thank you. Yeah, as manufacturing associations, we basically work with both the regulators and our members, the manufacturers. So we constantly hear to their challenges, concerns. Regulatory bodies certainly are, in the recent years, are trying to improve energy efficiency in the equipment that's been sold in this region. So they establish minimum energy performance requirements, which is step number one, very good. But if you don't have a surveillance and certification program, minimum energy efficiency performance are just ink on paper, because you'll end up having some products like previous speakers said, that only submit a golden sample, and what's in the market doesn't comply. And we can give you examples for actual experiences with other countries, like in the US, when they started in the 70s, initially doing surveillance testing. The government was taking care of that. And they quickly realized that this is not their cup of tea. So they start relying more on third-party certification organizations like Eurovent, AHRI. And even in this region, recently, Saudi Arabia, for example, SASO started market surveillance very actively. And initially, not surprisingly actually, 65% of the product they tested, they found was not in compliance for many reasons. Now shifting to the manufacturer side, the challenges are usually, you have manufacturing process changes, continuous cost reduction in manufacturing. So the product that you submit initially, knowingly or not knowingly, may end up changing in terms of performance. And the tolerance level can widen up to 10, 20, 30%. So when you, as a consumer or end user, when you're buying a product relying only on the label, you may end up with a product that's performing much less, consuming more power. So the solution is definitely with working with third-party manufacturing association that does this for a living, because the challenge for the governments is to test multiple products, multiple technology, so they can't be an expert in everything. You have VRF, you have chillers, you have, even in unitary, you have multiple types, brands, so there's no way a government can perform surveillance testing as good as a third-party certification company. So, as in the previous presentations, you establish a plain living, you measure everyone with the same stick, you can compare manufacturers to each other's in a fair way, and continuously check every year randomly to make sure that everybody is continuously complying with. So this is, I think, the solution.
Sylvain, if I hand over to you, what is, when we look at products which are heavily customized, for example, I mean, I guess we agree with what Nabil said, but specifically for customized products like air handling units, also chillers, bigger equipment, it's almost impossible for a government to perform market surveillance on such products. But yet we do need to have regulations, correct?
Exactly. We see that in Europe. Europe is maybe in advance in terms of market surveillance, but still we cannot test everything. Even for B2C products, there are very few products tested in our sector, because we are talking about energy efficiency. It's maybe less important than safety or toys, like we heard before. So what is important, and I agree with what was said before, is that certification schemes, third-party certification schemes, are voluntary schemes, meaning it's driven by the market. It's driven by manufacturers which voluntarily have audits, tests done by an independent party. And I guess authorities have to use that, have to get the benefit from what has been done under such scheme in order to focus on the part of the market which is not covered by those certification schemes. So really it's a help that they have to use, because I guess they have limited means in terms of testing, so they have to use what is already existing. And as you said, for customized units, it's even more the case, because to be able to independently test those kind of units, it's almost impossible. I don't have any example that it is existing today to have an efficient market surveillance schemes for in-kind products.
Which would also render any technical regulation for such products actually a little bit useless, because if you cannot surveil it, if you cannot enforce it correctly, then you don't know where you are.
This is something that we forgot always. You can have very nice rules, but if at the end of the day it's impossible to check those rules, it's meaningless.
Yeah. Vijay, UL is a big organization globally. You are certifying a huge number of products and a huge number of performances and safety features. How do you see the situation in the Middle East with pre-market testing from your perspective?
Pre-market testing?
Yeah, okay. So that I guess you are sometimes prescribed and mandated that electrical equipment needs to be certified, independently certified. Could you see that this is also a meaningful way to go for the AHRI equipment?
Well, I probably wouldn't be the best to comment on that, but to talk to you specifically about the third-party certificate.
I have a bit of an issue. I don't understand you. Could you?
Is it better now?
Yes.
Better? Okay. So I think in perspective with third-party certifications, right? I think we offer obviously a very robust and safe and comfort feeling, I guess, to mostly the suppliers and the end users as well. This comes obviously with a lot of support from documentation that we have and a lot of, I guess, audits that we continuously do. I did research something about this, I think about a week ago, and it was quite interesting by an association, which is the International Confederation of Inspections and Certifications. And they were comparing self-testing compared to third-party certifications. And the quite interesting bit was during that, in the sample, it suggested that about 78% of self-certified were in fact faulty, and about 10% were dangerously faulty, and they were non-compliant to EU regulations. Now, in the flip side, when it comes to third-party certifications, it was about 75% compliant and about 1% dangerously faulty. So in my opinion, I would say still, I think the third-party certification will still play a crucial role, I think, in terms of market surveillance. But I was also given the understanding that it is quite difficult in terms of capacity. And I think it wasn't easy for them to actually conduct the surveillance just as much. And the interesting bit was the finished goods that were inspected were only about 0.3%. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question completely.
Thank you. Engineer Basem, Gulf Standardization Organization is very active in trying to harmonize standards and labels in the region. Could you see, or how do you see third-party certification playing a role in harmonization for the region? Is there a discussion going on within the regulatory bodies and authorities how to actually treat the market with market surveillance in a way that we can actually harmonize not only the regulatory side, but also maybe benefit collectively from a market surveillance for region?
Thank you. I guess the main issue here to make this market surveillance tool very effective to help the authorities of phasing out the non-complying products in the market. This is also will help the manufacturers, reputed ones, to do their business in a very compatible with other manufacturers. So harmonizing the standards is one step towards having a good market surveillance procedures, commonly fair with all the products in the market. But also, market surveillance itself is a tool. It's not the only thing that we have to rely on to make the product safe in the market. We have to look to the whole legislative process. I'm not saying that we have to only make the pre-shipment certification, for example, the only tool for compliance. And also, we don't have to make the market surveillance the only tool. We have to study the infrastructure, the quality infrastructure. In Europe, they have an approach. They said, we make a legal system. We have the legislation system very strong. We trust all the manufacturers. And they have statistics that most of the products are manufactured inside the EU countries. So by the trust approach, they said, okay, we welcome any product to the market. And then we rely on the post-market tools like market surveillance to phase out the non-compliance product. And also, there is a culture in the European and even in the, let's say, American consumers. There is a culture that they have already a laws, safety law and consumer protection law. And the consumer have a culture that he can go to the authorities and he can get his rights very shortly. So you have to study all things around market surveillance in the region. And I believe it's not only to harmonize standards and requirements can help market surveillance. Also, market surveillance has to be effectively planned. I hear most of the people saying that market surveillance results is very actively catching, let's say, more than 70% of faulty products. This is actually the correct way of doing market surveillance, because if market surveillance goes to the compliant products, that means it's not planned correctly. You should have more than 90% of what you collect in the market surveillance failed. Otherwise, it's not planned, it's not a statistical approach of market surveillance. So again, it's not only harmonizing standards and requirements, there is a lot of things around market surveillance aspects has to be really looked into, and the culture of the consumer, the legal infrastructure, the quality infrastructure, the authority commitment with market surveillance, then the whole system can be effectively important. For example, just to say something in a regional level, we try to tell our GSO member states, if you plan a market surveillance for a product, please give information to other countries. So instead of wasting the efforts in each country, we can say, for example, in Bahrain, market surveillance authorities found this product non-compliant. Share this information with other countries. They will just go for the further tools, like withdrawing the product, not permitting the product in the market, or doing other tools in post-market for the compliance of the product.
Excellent point, Rangan. I think we like to hear such things, and we like to see way more on the market surveillance side, as we clearly watch in the market that we have an unfair competition of non-certified products, non-compliant products. Is this regionalization, this exchange of information, combined now also with market surveillance steps, as he mentioned, that we need perhaps more regulation, more laws, more consumer rights? Is that a way to go?
I think collaboration is the way to go, right? I mean, it's more important that this collaboration is also visible to the industry, that it's not just like happening somewhere on a job to job or project by product. It's the entire process is known to the industry. The transparency of the whole process is going to benefit everybody. So putting processes in place, ensuring that these processes are well known, well defined, and all the stakeholders are involved in formulating this process is the way moving forward. While we say that, I think another thing is the market surveillance a couple of years back versus what we have today. We should leverage technology. We should leverage, on a real-time basis, market surveillance should be done, even for the person who's doing it he should be having everything on his fingertip, maybe in his mobile. He should just go in and see what is the status of this particular model, in which market, where it is, what has happened. So we should get to that particular point moving forward, that it's very easy and there's no harassment for anybody, whether it's the person who's doing it or the manufacturer or anybody. Today it gets a little bit taxing and stressful because it impacts business disruption. It's not just the product that fails, it's the whole infrastructure behind the product which gets to a stall, business stall. For example, if there is surveillance, due to whatever reasons, rightfully, wrongfully done, and the product is just picked up and you get a report that this is not passed, then the manufacturing line, the livelihood, the supply chain, everything behind that particular product for that market, and the front-end people who are going to sell and make a living out of it is completely going to get impacted. So there is a bigger responsibility for all the stakeholders, right from the people who are doing the surveillance to the people who are actually selling the product, and everybody in building up a process which is very successful. At the same time, I again would like to stress the importance of having acceptability of labs which are there in the GCC, or creating infrastructure over here, because today I don't see that that surveillance is perhaps moving at a faster pace, but the ability to serve those surveillance with relevant labs in the region is not there. So it has to be looked in totality. If a product is going to be going through surveillance, where it is going to go, how is it going to be supported, or if factory can Eurovent or AHRI for the necessary products come into play, and can the lab get certified? Do we need to sell the product, or can the people come over there to the respective labs with the right kind of calibration or expertise and do the surveillance? These are the kind of questions and solutions that as a group and experts we should try to work towards and find a solution.
Thank you. Sylvain, laboratories, GCC, can Eurovent use different labs? Do they have to send it away? What's the Eurovent's policies?
So, as said before, we do rely a lot on independent labs. We really believe in the added value to have independent laboratories to perform the tests. Of course, it brings some complexity to the process. Sometimes we don't have the capacities for very big units, large units, for example, and then we do rely on participant laboratories. So yes, we will try to introduce more labs in the future in order to be closest to the market, especially in Middle East and in Asia, because today we rely only on European independent labs. But we will always believe that independent labs have a value in the process, and we have to ensure
this trust level.
Exactly.
For the
and the manufacturers, they do also believe in that.
Yeah.
They know it's complicated, but they do want to have, let's say, a neutral body to perform the test. Mm-hmm. This is very important for the manufacturers themselves.
Thank you. Nabil, we as associations and in parts of also certification, independent certification bodies, what can we do to help, or what would be the best way to help governments in the region to upgrade their game in market surveillance? What could we do? How could we be of help?
Okay, it's like Basem said, we have to basically do a system that will fit the needs of this region. This is a unique region in many ways. We have, high ambient. This region produces a lot of oil. And also like the previous speakers mentioned, we consume up to 80% of the power goes to HVAC. So it's very important to cut the energy consumption on those. There are many systems that we can learn from. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. And like Basem said, we're probably not at a stage to be allowing self-compliance or like Europe. So we need to start at a point where we basically not having laboratories in the region is very important. So associations like us can help test the product at the origin. For example, a lot of the products comes from Asia, Europe, US. So we have labs there. Third-party certification organization can help test the product at the origin. So until we get regional labs established here where they can be approved to do certification testing. So we can learn from existing systems, and we have a lot of experience as manufacturing association. We can definitely help in the discussion and provide our experience. And Markus and I been, we're big supporters of GSO because you guys are trying to do harmonization, which is another important thing that will help reduce the trade barriers. As I mentioned, another unique thing about this region is all the HVAC companies have to create specific models for high ambient. So this is specially designed for this region. And if they see a lot of hurdles, getting stuck on customs because the test failed of a unit that should have passed, all these frustrations will, make these companies reluctant to sell their technologies or products in this region.
Reducing availabilities and varieties, and ultimately energy efficiency.
And I always use the example of Kuwait. Kuwait has, specific requirements and kind of odd requirements, 48 degrees, etc. So they have the least brands selling there, Coming from the industry, I used to avoid selling in Kuwait because the requirements there and standards are a headache. So, and I agree with also Basem of improving cooperation. If something fails in this country, a lot of times the same model fails in another country. So these discussions, I think we need to be had to create a system that is good for all.
Vijay, what opportunities do we have to work together, AHRI, UL, Eurovent, to be there on the table and do our best to actually support this?
I think at the end of the day, we all have a common goal, right? We want to have safe products being supplied to the end users at the end of the day. And people who have no clue that, in fact, the amount of work we do to actually ensure these safe products are out there. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't have that conversation, and I think we should, definitely.
I would like to release you to the coffee break with perhaps a final statement on market surveillance, and that is, it is in the best interest of everyone, specifically the industry players, that we improve this part a lot in the future, and we will do our best to work together and have clear messages, joint messages, also for the authorities. Thank you very much.